When we look around, we may notice the roof of our home, the floor we are standing on, and when we go outside, the bridge we cross every day. All of them look perfectly straight to us. But in reality, when people walk on them, when vehicles move, when a load increase, they are never truly straight. They bend. Not enough for us to see, but enough for engineers to worry about. But bending itself is not the real danger. The real danger is the stress produced inside the beam because of bending. Most of these structures are supported by beams, and beams are subjected to different kinds of loading. These loads try to slice and bend the beam, but beam try to resist these forces by generating shear force and bending moment. In the previous videos, we learned how to calculate these internal forces and how to draw their variation along the length of the beam using shear force diagram and bending moment diagrams. But how do these shear force and bending moment actually come into existence? When a beam is loaded, it bends slightly. It compresses the beam at the top while it stretches at the bottom. So the fibers at the bottom of the beam are in tension, while the fibers at the top are in compression. If we consider any section of the beam, we see that the beam develops compressive and tensile stresses as a reaction to the applied load, and these stresses act normal to the section. The resultant of these stresses appears as the bending moment at that section. We often say that bending moment generates normal stress, but in reality, it is the normal stresses that give rise to the bending moment. Now, if you look at the sagging beam, of which every top fiber is in compression while every bottom fiber is in tension, we can infer that there must be a plane somewhere in between where the beam is neither in compression nor in tension. At this layer, the stress is zero, and it is called the neutral axis. As we move away from the neutral axis, the stress increases. And at the extreme fibers, that is at the topmost and the bottommost layers, the stress becomes maximum. Notice that this increase in stress is linear. This happens because as the beam bends, the change in length of fibers increases gradually as we move away from the neutral axis. The strain, change in length by original length, naturally varies linearly with the distance from the neutral axis. Now, because we design our structures to remain within the elastic limit, the stress increases linearly. Therefore, the bending stress also varies linearly from zero at the neutral axis to the maximum at the extreme fibers. To calculate the value of this bending stress at any distance from the neutral axis, we use Flexure Formula, which is given by this. This relationship can be derived easily using the geometry of the bent beam, Hooke's law relating stress and strain, and the equilibrium between internal stresses and the external bending moment. Here M is the bending moment at the section. I is the moment of inertia of the cross section about the neutral axis. Sigma is the bending stress at a distance y from the neutral axis. E is the Young's modulus of the material, and R is the radius of curvature of the bent beam. From the first part of this equation, we obtain the commonly used form of the Flexure formula. This equation allows us to determine the bending stress developed at any point in the cross-section due to the bending moment M. We can clearly see that the bending stress is directly proportional to the distance y from the neutral axis. So at y equal to 0, that means at the neutral axis, the bending stress is 0. And as we move away from the neutral axis, bending stress increases linearly and reaches maximum at the extreme fibers. Therefore, The maximum bending stress developed in a beam section can be written as this. In practical design, this maximum stress is our primary concern because a failure, cracking, or yielding will always begin where the stress is highest. Since the maximum stress always occurs at the outermost fibers, engineers combine I and Y max into a single property called section modulus, denoted by Z. With this, the formula becomes beautifully simple. The section modulus is like a strength score for a beam's shape. The higher the Z value, the more resistant the beam is to bending. This section modulus depends on the distance of the extreme fiber and the moment of inertia of the section. That says, section modulus depends purely on the geometry of the beam. And this gives us something interesting. For a given bending moment, the stress doesn't just depend on the material, it depends heavily on the shape of the cross-section. Now comes the most important understanding. If we want a beam to carry more load safely, we must reduce the bending stress developed in it. And to do that, we either reduce bending moment or increase section modulus. Since the loading often cannot be changed or is predetermined, we can work with the geometry of the beam. We can increase the depth of the beam. This increases the distance of the material from the neutral axis. And when material is placed further from the neutral axis, the moment of inertia increases significantly. This increases section modulus. A larger section modulus makes a beam stronger in bending. This is why deeper beams are stronger. And this is also why I-section beams are so efficient. The Flexure formula tells us that the material near the neutral axis does almost no work, carries almost no bending stress. The stress there is nearly zero. So instead of wasting material in the middle, engineers place more material at the top and bottom, where the stress is maximum. By shifting material into the flanges, we drastically increase the moment of inertia and section modulus without adding extra weight. We are placing material exactly where it resists bending the most. There is another powerful technique we use to strengthen the beam, especially concrete beams. Concrete is strong in compression, but weak in tension. And from our bending stress distribution, we already know that the top fibers are in compression and the bottom fibers are in tension in a sagging beam. So in RCC beams, steel reinforcement is placed near the bottom, exactly where the tensile stress is maximum. So important thing to remember is this: loads don't break structures. Stress breaks structures. Also, shear force and bending moment do not directly cause failure. Resulting stresses do. Two beams may have a same load, same span, and same material, and yet one may fail while other remains safe because stress inside them is different, and that stress distribution depends heavily on geometry. In this video, we focused entirely on bending moment and stresses generated by it. But loading also produces shear force, and that generates another type of stress in the beam. We will explore all that in the next video. I have prepared a detailed PDF in which I discuss several important loading cases: point loads, uniformly distributed loads, uniformly varying loads, pure moment case, and some more. And for each one, the shear force and bending moment diagrams are derived step by step. There is also a section explaining the relationship between loading, shear force, and bending moment, so you can understand how changes in loading affect the diagrams. Towards the end, I have included a chapter on common mistakes students make during exams and why those mistakes occur. This PDF is meant to be descriptive and concept focused, especially useful if you are learning the topic for the first time or want to strengthen your fundamentals. You can purchase the PDF with the link in the description. With that, I would love to thank my patrons for supporting elementary engineering financially. Also, thanks to the members of my channel here on YouTube. If you also like the video, you can support elementary engineering on Patreon or join the channel here on YouTube to unlock the members only content. And there are also other methods for supporting the channel. Find the links of books and other sources I referred for the creation of this video in the description. Read the bending stress and flexure formula at elementaryengineeringlibrary.com. Thank you.